With only a few weeks left until Season 7, we already know some of the buffs and nerfs that will be coming along with it. Zarya's projected bubble buffs have undeniably made her a stronger pick, and she's already getting a nerf. Although she still struggles without a strong ally to apply it to, when she does have a Genji, a Bastion, or even an aggressive Echo, she gets an unreal amount of work done. Duoing with a DPS as a tank has been straight up buffed because of this, since any semblance of teamwork gives both the Zarya and her ally a lot of control over the game. And her strength lies in her aggression too, so in stalemate situations where both teams are playing overpowered defensive setups, this type of synergy can break it. And the projected bubble buff she received was threefold: shorter cooldown, larger size to absorb more spam, and higher health on the bubble, from 200 to 225. And the buff is basically fourfold if you consider that she gets more energy from the higher health bubble. But now Blizzard is going to be reverting the size buff and the health buff, essentially leaving only the cooldown buff. Realistically, this doesn't make Zarya much worse, but in order to stay competitive outside of spam metas, the projected bubble seriously needs this kind of utility, so that she can at least have some form of win condition when both teams aren't spamming Bastion grenades and Torbjorn slugs at each other. It's likely that Zarya will slowly fall out of the meta, not only because of her buffs being reverted, but because players will realize that there are better tanks who can get more value without having to work closely with their teammates and hope that they pick damage characters that can synergize well with Zarya. As for other changes based on Season 6, Bastion has already received his hotfix to also revert the 50 armor repaired when he starts his turret form. This was a small change, and it's definitely going to impact his survivability since armor is and has always been strong at absorbing damage, but the compositions he's played in shouldn't be hurt too much. He's always assisted by Baptiste anyway, so composition-wise, no real change. But individually, he may struggle some more. He'll definitely be clutching late fights a lot less often, without that 50 armor buffer to help him survive just a little bit longer to get an extra pick. This was definitely a needed nerf, but Blizzard is not looking to nerf anything else, especially not his tactical grenade, which adds some wild utility to an otherwise linear point-and-click hero. And now for the brand new Season 7 changes. First off, we can expect both Sombra and Roadhog's reworks to be in Season 7. Sombra will receive hers first at the start, while Roadhog will have to wait until the mid-season patch a month later. But as for the actual details on the rework, here's what we have so far. Sombra will become more committal when engaging. This likely means that she'll be able to stay in for longer when she does uncloak and start fighting, and will use her new ability that was teased a while back to achieve this. I'm guessing this will be some form of new utility, but it's anyone's guess what it's supposed to do. It's pretty clear that it won't be some simple ability like a damaging grenade or a single shot fire like Sojourn's Rail. With how Sombra plays, it's got to be some sort of hack utility. Blizzard is also focused on keeping her playstyle based on her hacker identity, so it might be a snare or some sort of movement restrictive ability. We've already seen new forms of CC that aren't as oppressive as Overwatch 1 in Ramatra's Ravenous Vortex. She's also going to feel more active, which is probably a hint that her downtime will be lower, or even that she'll be able to get value without having to go invisible and sit behind the enemy team. Next up, for Roadhog's changes. Although he's not quite finished cooking yet, his new playstyle will finally allow him to take space for his team, as well as protect his allies, which he has only ever done in one of the single-use experimental patches, where his Take a Breather healed allies. Even though Roadhog is a simple hero, all of his button inputs are already occupied, so look forward to seeing one of his current abilities updated and adjusted to help his team achieve the goal of taking space. He'll also be doing all of this while still maintaining his identity and playstyle, which is and has always been fishing for hooks. I can't wait to see how they're going to pull this off, especially since Blizzard has also stated that his power will be moved further away from his one-shot potential. Right now, his hook is at a 6-second cooldown, and is still a super powerful ability to reposition enemies. Unless your composition has 1 or 2 characters that counter Roadhog hard, although there's a lot of options to do this, he actually will be quite the menace with the 20-meter kill zone if you don't have those heroes. It's likely that his hook won't be having a further reduction in cooldown, but we can expect that it might be adjusted to be more impactful in displacement rather than bringing people in for the kill. It's also important to notice that his power will be, quote, moved around, so expect to see a new strength in his kit that maybe wasn't there before. Although he has the potential to become total torture to play against in a whole new, arduous way, he's definitely been waiting for his rework for a long time, so no matter how terrible it is, I can't wait to see what it actually is. Finally, some more changes for Season 7 will be coming to Orisa, Torbjorn, and Mei. Orisa's fortified damage reduction is finally going to be pulled back, but it's unclear whether it will be straight back to the previous 40% or a middle ground of 45. 40% still makes a strong ability, but makes her killable in late fights or when she's faced with overwhelming damage. Right now, she's so strong that even if you do try to kill her during Fortify, you're really wasting your time. 45 would still make her a bit too strong, so I'll definitely be real disappointed in Blizzard if they don't go the extra mile to take her back to square one. As for Torbjorn, the fire rate on his primary is also receiving a revert. With a lot of crazy changes being reverted, Blizzard are definitely trying things out and throwing them around. And while they may lead to some unfun stints of gameplay, I'm at least glad that they are still reverting them and not just leaving them in the game without addressing them. And one of these was definitely Torbjorn's fire rate. Combined with his overload, he was laying down way too much suppressive fire and getting a lot of random kills that can't be played around. And finally, Mei's passive Deep Chill hasn't been successful at making her strong, but it's important to realize that it's most effective on tanks. And the strong tanks right now either have high damage output that prevent Mei from getting too close and activating her 75% slow effect, or have an easy way to cleanse it, like with Fortify and Bubble. The devs state that they believe her changes aren't resulting in improved gameplay, but it's a lot harder to tell when the meta tanks have a strong matchup into her. And from the feedback gathered about the ability, she's now more frustrating to play against for those tanks who don't have a way to cleanse the effect, nor pressure her enough to force her ice block and stave off her attack. It's likely that Blizzard will remove or rework the passive, instead buffing the rest of her kit. Although I hope only slightly. With how strong tanks have gotten, a health buff to her ice wall wouldn't be too overpowered, but it's easy to forget how strong it can be when there's not a Bastion and Baptiste on both teams. And these aren't the only changes we'll be seeing in Season 7. The new control map, which we have seen nothing from yet, will be released. And no supports have received significant changes for a very long time. Despite the support passive being nerfed, most supports get equal value out of it, so no one is better or worse off than the other. From the support heroes that aren't being played that much, Moira definitely needs a change, and Zenyatta is definitely struggling a bit, even though it's really his meta. Unfortunately for Zenyatta, he likely won't be changed for a long time, as in the past, when he's received buffs and adjustments to his kit, it's made him way too strong and a must pick at the higher level. But for Moira, she's definitely long overdue for a solid buff, and we might even see her getting her own rework down the line. Although really, she only needs a couple of changes, adding some utility to either her Fade, which they've experimented with in the past, or her orbs. That's all the news for now, but expect more information about upcoming changes soon as we get closer to Season 7. Only a few weeks remain, so make sure to finish up those battle passes if you do have them. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.